Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me. Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. Once again, Manipur is in the news, and once again for all the wrong reasons. Joining me now from Imphal to talk about the situation in his home state, and in particular, yesterday's developments surrounding the Arambai Tenggol, is the well-known author, senior journalist, and columnist, Pradip Phanjoubam. Pradip Phanjoubam, let me start with what happened in Manipur yesterday, Wednesday the 24th, when 37 MLAs and 2 MPs, all of whom are Meitei, took an oath in Kangla Fort and signed a document committing themselves to pursue the Arambai Tenggol's objectives with the central government. The chief minister and deputy chief ministers were signatories, and this happened the day after a team from the central government had met with Arambai Tenggol on 2 separate occasions for a total of 4 hours. What do you make of this development?
It is very significant in the sense that the trouble here has been lasting for so long, and that has put so many things in total uncertainty. And in this uncertainty, you see so many things that you would not have seen if things are not so bad. So I think this is one of those abnormal normals that you want something to happen, and that happened. And a lot of people actually wanted it, and also, with an apprehension that this can go wrong, badly wrong, that a system is going haywire. That kind of thing is there. But what was agreed upon is actually also a reflection of the minds, especially amongst the Meiteis, that certain things are going wrong and these things should be corrected. And those things were what were reflected in those 6 points agreed.
Let's talk a little in detail about yesterday's developments. Kurun Gangba Khuman, the Arambai Tenggol chief, arrived at the venue in Kangla Fort in a police vehicle. We frequently see him on social media carrying allegedly stolen weapons, yet his is a militant organization. He does have access to the police, and people wonder how come. He has weapons, and people wonder how come. And he flaunts them without any concern. Is that not a little odd?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. This has been happening, and as I said, no, it's the abnormal normal. Everybody carries weapon, and nothing has been done about this, not by the state government or the central government. It's not just here. No, the weaponizing of the society here was also in many ways a response. There was an apprehension that the hills were armed and the valley was not armed, which is why that big looting happened, and also there was a kind of a silent applause. I know there's some kind of security is coming in for the people, since the government was doing nothing about it. So that kind of thing is that abnormal normal is very much here.
Okay, but many people say that what yesterday represented, when 37 MLAs and 2 MPs took an oath in front of the Arambai Tenggol, were signatories to a document promising to promote the Arambai Tenggol's objectives, many people say this feels like the ascendance of Arambai Tenggol and the deliberate subordination of the state government to this outfit. How do you view it?
Yeah, I would agree to that to a great extent. But the Arambai Tenggol was also saying that they were representing the voice of the people. And as I said, if you look at the 6 agreements, that voice seems to be there. Maybe they were just writing on that popular sentiment, but that was there. And also, I think the MLAs agreed to it because there was this was what was reflected in the public mood. All those the 6 agreements.
I'll
And
come to those agreements in a moment's time because I think that should be the core of our discussion. But one of the things that struck my attention is that after that oath-taking moment at Kangla Fort, Kurunganga Khuman came out and spoke to PTI. This is what Mr. Khuman said to PTI. What we wanted to show today is that ministers and MLAs are under the public. And then he went on and he was quoting what the legislators had said to him. And apparently, according to him, they said, if the center does not listen to our concerns, we, i.e., the legislators, will take the movement to protect Manipur to the people. That is a clear indication that the legislators are now accepting as a superior authority the Arambai Tenggol, and within that, Mr. Khuman, the head of the Tenggol. It's a sort of subordination of legislators to the Arambai Tenggol.
Yeah, actually, as I said before, this would have been the case if the Arambai Tenggol was saying something else which was not already in the public domain. They were saying things, as I said, it could be they were writing on the public sentiment and taking it to the ministers and the MLAs. So the MLAs, I also recall that they had a number of meetings, the MLAs and the joint parties. They met and then finally decided to participate in this. So this must have been discussed in details, and they finally came to it. And if there was subversive kind of statements in that particular thing, I think probably it would have been much more difficult for them, and maybe some of them would have refused. But as I see it, no, it should not have happened in this way. But it was something which was already there in the air, and that so many people are demanding it, not just the Arambai Tenggol, that something should be done, and especially amongst the Meiteis, as I said.
But you do believe that it should not have happened in this way. You do believe that the message of alleged or apparent subordination of 37 MLAs to the Arambai Tenggol is an unfortunate message to send out.
Unfortunate in many ways. This should have happened, this kind of step by the government should have happened a long time ago on its own. Maybe after 1 week of that, even if they didn't foresee that May 3 incident, they should have taken control in the first 1 week itself, said all these things that they're saying now. Then I don't think the Arambai Tenggol would have come up. And in fact, the Arambai Tenggol, before this incident, before the present crisis, were virtually unknown. I mean, I also did, when I had an inkling of what happened, that there was an organization like this, after a particular incident where a Christian pastor, Meitei Christian pastor, was being threatened because of his insult, what they see as an insult to the Meitei religion. So that only those small incidents we saw. Otherwise, they were not a significant presence. But the trouble.
Absolutely. But after yesterday, we have seen what I call the ascendance of Arambai Tenggol, and in particular, the ascendance of Kurungamba Khuman as the head of the Arambai Tenggol. And as you said, it should not have happened in this way. It's unfortunate in many ways. Let's then, against that background, come to the demands that those 37 MLAs and 2 MPs have signed to promote with the central government. To begin with, these include a commitment to pursue with the center that the cookies should be removed from the list of scheduled tribes. And secondly, to replace the Assam Rifles with another force. How can the state government's MLAs commit themselves to doing this?
On the question of the cookies, there is already there's a distinction to be made. There is a category called any cookie tribe. Otherwise, no, the cookies are a number of tribes. They can individually enlist as scheduled tribes, but not as any cookie tribe. And the thinking here is that that term itself is too vague. Anybody can fit in. So it actually facilitates the people immigrating into the state and becoming scheduled tribes. I think that is where the MLAs probably were thinking when they agreed to this. And in fact, there was a movement to remove that any Kuki tribe. But
won't that, Pradeep, exacerbate the divisions between the Kuki and the Meitei? And if 37 of the state's MLAs are signing on to do just that, then they are also signing on to exacerbate the divide. Rather than heal the wounds and reconcile the two communities, this will splinter and divide them further, surely.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think all the MLAs should have sat together and then decided on these things, reasoned it out that we will not harm any of the tribes, but we will remove that particular tag, any Kuki tribe, because and in any Kuki tribe, anybody can fit in. Anybody who claims to be a Kuki can fit in. Suppose the Meiteis claim that they're Kukis, maybe they can also fit in.
In other words, you're saying to me that that particular phrase, any Kuki tribe, should have been borne in mind and more explicitly made clear, rather than simply say removing Kukis from the scheduled tribe list.
Yeah, I think, and removing Kuki tribe will not harm any of the tribes, because there is no single tribe called Kuki in the ST list. It's the any Kuki tribe. So if you remove the any Kuki tribe, the tribes within that any Kuki tribe can become their original tribes and be still listed as scheduled tribes.
What about this second claim that they want to remove the Assam Rifles and replace them with another force? The Assam Rifles are positioned by the central government. When the 37 MLAs and 2 MPs sign on to pressure the central government, they're also signing on to adversely affect the government policy.
Yeah, again, this is unfortunate, but I had a conversation with some other people as well on this. And the apprehension here that Assam Rifles is taking the size of the Kukis is very much here in the valley. And this
I should point out that the Assam Rifles strenuously denies that.
Yeah. And I would even agree with that they were not doing that. But the perception is what matters. And the perception has a basis in the sense that you have the army coming in. They are posted here for 2.5 years in rotation. You'll be taken out. You'll never be permanently settled here. But in the case of the Assam Rifles, you're permanently here. So you're there in a village for 10 years or 15 years. Naturally, you get you grow into that village and become part of that community. That kind of thing would be happening and probably is happening, and not out of any intention, but out of that human kind of contact and human affiliation that you are there when sharing.
The only thing is that by signing on to put pressure on the central government to replace the Assam Rifles, these 37 MLAs and 2 MPs are making themselves partisan. They're quite clearly taking the Meitei side, whereas one would expect of legislators a certain impartiality, balance, and objectivity. They've deliberately chosen to take sides rather than be impartial.
Yeah, they should have actually consulted more with all the MLAs as well as the Assam Rifles. Probably they're doing that as well. But as I said, there is a structural flaw in this. It's not a organizational kind of thing, but the structure. They are a paramilitary force. They are supposed to be dealing with counterinsurgency. So you're fighting an unseen enemy. So your approach to the entire problem is different. And also you're permanently there. Officers are posted in rotation, but the troops are there permanently at one place. So you get that affiliation is quite natural.
I take your point, except that it doesn't completely remove the concern that when MLAs take sides, it only will exacerbate the divide in the state even further. But let me come to this third demand raised by the Arambai Tenggol, to which both the Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Minister have signed on. That third demand is to scrap the suspension of operations agreement. Now, the central government, on the other hand, remains committed to the SU agreements. So now you have a situation where 37 MLAs, the Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Minister, want the SU agreement scrapped, but the central government is committed to retaining and maintaining it. Now you have a divide between the BJP in terms of their Chief Minister in Imphal and the BJP in terms of the central government and the Home Minister and the Prime Minister in Delhi. That's another sort of fissure that's emerged.
Yeah, that is again there. And I think it's unfortunate. What more can I say? And also the perception probably has to be shared. The center is looking at it from a distance through their agencies reporting to them. And the state has their own mechanism. And maybe the perceptions are different. This perception should have been shared and then decided together. They should have decided together whether some moderation is necessary, or maybe total abrogation is necessary. Those kind of things, decision taking was not done. So it has not been done for a long time.
I get the impression from what you're saying, Mr. Phanjoubam, you've used the word unfortunate 2 or 3 times. You said it should not have happened in this way. You said the image and impression given is unfortunate in many ways. I get the impression you feel that these 37 MLAs and these 2 MPs have acted a little impetuously. They've been a little rash. They should have been more careful and thoughtful rather than go ahead with this public oath taking and public signing of statements. Do I interpret you correctly?
Yeah, that is one of the impressions. But also, the Home Ministry had sent their officials to the state 2-3 days earlier, and they had discussions with them. So maybe there is an understanding behind the scenes, which we don't see, but we can only speculate. Because the Home Ministry people are very much here. The people interlocutor himself was here, and they had discussions with the government as well as Arambai Tenggol, as well as the other stakeholders. So maybe there was some.
In fact, Mr. Phanjoubam, they had discussions with the Arambai Tenggol both on Monday night and, according to newspapers, again on Tuesday morning. And those 2 rounds of discussions apparently totaled 4 hours altogether, which is why the Indigenous Tribal Leaders Forum has responded in fairly strong terms in a statement they issued late last night to the events of Wednesday. They say, and I'm quoting, "For the first time in history, a militia that led attacks on innocent civilians because of their ethnicity and which openly displays sophisticated weapons stolen from police armories was able to order state lawmakers, including the chief minister, to attend a meeting it had called and made the MLAs endorse their demands." I'm not talking about their characterization of the chief minister or their characterization of Arambai Tenggol. What I'm pointing to is that the ITLF statement makes clear that the divide between the Kukis and the Meitei has got a little worse. Just when we needed reconciliation, just when we needed harmony, we've actually made the divide and the fissures worse.
Yeah, I think that those efforts should have been made. But also, you have to know the situation here that none of the parties have been showing any indication that they want reconciliation. So that this has been very clear from the beginning. I mean, not beginning, but all the while that there's not going to be any reconciliation very soon. Or probably, when you put the hawks and the doves together, you hear only the hawks. But there are so many people who may also be wanting peace and reconciliation, but those voices are not heard. And also those voices, what happens is when you sit with when the doves sit with the hawks, the doves also begin to speak the hawk language for their own safety, for their own security, or you get overwhelmed by the other side of the voice. So that kind of thing is happening. So there has to be somewhere somebody has to break this barrier.
That's a very fair point you make, and I accept it completely. Let me put another concern to you. As you pointed out, the interlocutor and 2 very senior officials of the IB, the 3 together comprised the team sent by the center to Imphal. They met with Arambai Tenggol on Monday night. They met with Arambai Tenggol on Tuesday morning. According to newspapers, the 2 meetings altogether lasted for 4 hours. And this happened just 24 hours before the 37 MLAs and 2 MPs took an oath in Kangla Fort, probably at the behest of Arambai Tenggol, signed that document, promising to promote Arambai Tenggol's objectives with the central government. Given the fact that the central team had met Arambai Tenggol just 24 hours earlier, do you get the feeling that all of this, in some sense, has the blessings of the center, or at least it has the acknowledgement and the acquiescence of the center?
There is speculation like that, and I think it has a basis in the sense that you also have so much troops here, and why are these things being allowed? When you ask that question, it becomes clear that maybe there is a deeper game plan. And I have also written about this, that maybe it is to attract all the UGs the underground elements to come out and join the fight so that they can be cornered and then brought to their heels, as it happened in Assam. Right now, if you look at it, there are only the Meitei insurgents which are not agreeing to talks, as well as some faction of this Alpha. So probably the government is looking for that kind of a situation where the UGs, as we call them, the insurgents, are compelled to come forward and join the fight so that they can be actually cornered.
Possibly, but there's something equally strange that's happened on the other side. And I want to draw your attention to that. On the one hand, we're talking about the possible complicity or acquiescence of the center with the Arambai Tenggol. But on the other hand, social media, particularly in Manipur, is full of talk of how the central government is considering dropping the Integrity of Manipur Clause from the Sioux agreements. Some people say that this suggests, and maybe it's no more than a suggestion, that the central government is coming around to accepting a separate administration. How do you read these social media messages? Because they're proliferating in Manipur, I'm told.
Oh, yeah, I try my best to avoid these social media comments because some of them are just baseless. And also they speculate too much, and then they put those speculation as if it's something which is in the air. And I normally avoid that, but I don't see any reason why the center would do that. So maybe the separate administration, if you change the word. I heard this in a lecture by Pradip Phanjoubam where he said that you have a problem and doesn't have an answer. You keep trying for that answer, you don't find that answer, then the best thing to do is to change the question. When you change the question, then maybe the answers will become visible. So when you say separate, that seems like Manipur is going to break up. And if you change that word and say autonomy, for instance, district autonomy or things like that, maybe it's the same thing, but there's just a wording, there's a semantics, actually changes the entire scenario. So I thought maybe people are thinking in those terms when you
forgive me interrupting you. You may well be right, because people are speculating, and I point out to the audience it's only speculation, that when the social media messages claim that the center is considering dropping the Integrity of Manipur Clause from the Sioux agreements, they may simply be only talking about conferring fifth scheduled status, something that the tribal areas in Manipur don't have. That wouldn't be a separate administration, but it would be a certain measure of autonomy within the boundaries of Manipur. That could be what is suggested. Do you think that's a possibility?
I think that is a possibility. And in fact, I was looking to people to actually think in those terms, that you don't see, it's like a red flag, a red flag to the bull. You change the color of that flag, the situation remains the same, but maybe the bull doesn't react. So if you change the wording, if you change the just the phrasing of that particular idea, maybe there will be reconciliation. Maybe there will be ways to actually negotiate.
Absolutely. But then we have a very intriguing, if not odd, situation developing. On the one hand, we have reasons to suspect that the center has some sort of complicit understanding or acquiescence with the Arambai Tenggol. On the other hand, social media suggests that the center is trying to find a way of conferring fifth schedule status to the tribal areas of Manipur. And that has led people to say, is the central government playing both sides at the same time? Are they both trying to help out the Arambai Tenggol on the one hand and help out the Kukis on the other? And if that is the case, is it wise or is it dangerous?
I think it would be dangerous because these things can misfire. Otherwise, I think if you can appease both, if you can get both sides to understand each's problem, and then allow concessions which are not seen as harmful to the other side, then I think that's where reconciliation can begin. So if you will have to be talking to both sides, and I think the center is perfectly legitimate to do that, and in fact encouraged to do that, so that you can find a middle part where both sides can agree, both sides give a little.
Why then do you think it could be dangerous? Are you worried that the center may not have the facility to do it adeptly, that they may do it somewhat ham-handedly and make the situation worse, rather than do it with discretion and with a certain measure of effectiveness and improve the situation? So is that why you think it's dangerous, that they may be inept in doing it?
Inept in doing it, and maybe the vision was not far enough, or maybe you have a plan which is risky. As for instance, that thing I was talking about, the thing about bringing the insurgents into the fight so that they can be cornered. Supposing that doesn't happen, and the anger here is growing. So Arambai Tenggol, for instance, if they were disbanded now, maybe they will go and join the insurgents, and the problem will become worse. So that thing can happen. Even in the Kuki side, you have the a society is completely militarized, thinking that some kind of normalcy will come out, separate administration or whatever. Supposing that doesn't come out, that side insurgency can also grow. So that kind of misfiring can happen.
So what you're saying is when you try and play both sides of a divide, you're actually playing with fire. It can be very dangerous. You could end up burning yourself.
Yes, you should be more careful because, the dangers, I think the dangers are should be taken care of because, the people who are going to hurt are those people who are most innocent.
My
not
last
the warriors.
My last question, Mr. Phanjoubam. How do you explain the fact that it's almost 9 months since the trouble began on the 3rd of May last year, and we still don't have a solution, and the Prime Minister seems to have turned his back on the state of Manipur altogether? He has time to visit temples all over South India. He's done virtually nothing but that over the last 10, 12, 13 days, but he hasn't found time to come to Imphal. And now with national elections just over 2 months away, I imagine Manipur will get even less of his attention than it deserves. How do people in Manipur explain the fact that Mr. Modi seems to be effectively unconcerned?
Yeah, it's quite very, very unfortunate. And also, I think it's a big failure of the state as such, because the state is supposed to have monopoly over legitimate violence, as Max Weber says. But that thing is not happening. Anybody carrying arm is illegitimate. Only the state can do that. That kind of a message has to be given. And the message has to be two-pronged. One is that you win the love of the people. If you cannot do that, at least give them the fear that the law cannot be broken. That both, I think the state as such, the state Manipur government as well as the center has failed completely in this, that anybody can be carrying arms without fear and nobody has to love the state. That kind of thing has been not taken care of at all. Not trying to win either love or that fear.
So has respect for Mr. Modi collapsed in Manipur because he's effectively turned his back on the troubled state? Is that how people feel?
I think that would be to a great extent. But elections here are more transactional. You have somebody in power at the center. Normally, people tend to lean towards that. There is the sense of the patron-client relationship that you have to be there with the patron, otherwise you will be in trouble. That kind of a mindset is here, which is why if the Congress comes to power or anybody comes to power at the center, the parties in the northeast will tend towards that party in power. That kind of thing.
So people in Manipur feel they've been let down by the Prime Minister.
I think so. I would say that. A great number of people. Yeah.
Pradip Phanjoubam, thank you very much for making time for me. Take care. Stay safe.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch The Interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.